Opioids are the miracle drugs that can take all the pain away. When my forearm was broken, I had plenty of morphine. When I had surgery on my chest, hydrocodone and Percocet were close at hand. But when the healing is gone and the pain goes away, you have a choice. Throw away the remaining narcotics, let them sit in the medicine cabinet, or use them up for purposes that have nothing to do with pain. This year, prescription drugs have killed more people than car crashes and gun violence. So what do? Opioids have good purpose until the use turns to misuse and abuse. The United States of Opioid America. This is CounterPoint with Gerard McClendon. Will there be an opium war in the United States? Are Americans so dependent on opioids that the demand pressures doctors, pharmacists, and therapists to prescribe and allow for pain or insistence? Thank you for watching CounterPoint. Call us at 844-777-9311. Send me a tweet, Facebook comment to Gerard MC. At the CounterPoint today, we have Dr. Janet Seabrook from Gary Community Health Center and Ronald Williams, Chief Crisis Officer from Edgewater Systems for Balanced Living. Welcome to the CounterPoint. We really appreciate you coming in today on such a serious topic. First question here is on regulations and the strictness of regulations that we should have on opioids. As I mentioned in the open, I had surgery on my heart. They had to open my chest up. I had a tumor that was floating around on my aorta. After the surgery, of course, you're in intense pain, immense pain. So you're given painkillers, okay? Mm-hmm. Should you be given painkillers? Of course, because it hurts. It can be unbearable on some days. But I ask the two of you, should regulations on drugs and prescriptions be more strict? What do you think, Dr. Janet Seabrook?
Well, in your case, looking at you having a medical procedure that was genuine and they're called for the need to have pain medications. In answer to your question in regards to should there be restrictions and limitations, each state has the ability to control the substances that providers are able to write prescriptions for. And with the state of Indiana, we have a resource, a tool, and it's called Inspect, and it's all capital letters. Inspect is a web-based resource that providers in the state of Indiana can go in and take a look at the number of prescriptions, who provided the prescriptions, and how many times they were refilled. And this is how we're able to work in concert with the pharmacists, the local pharmacists throughout the state of Indiana, to be in communication to be able to monitor, inspect.
Okay, this is interesting. See, yes. you opened it up here. So it's state by state when it comes to regulation, and Indiana chooses to have this inspect to make sure or to monitor what prescriptions are being written and the number of prescriptions. What's the reason for that? Is it a qualitative, a quantitative reason? Is it a reason for accountability and possibly abuse of writing prescriptions? What's the purpose?
It's multifactorial, but the basic fact was for tracking and monitoring the prescriptions that were being written and filled by pharmacists. Also, it helps to alert providers, and we can also alert pharmacies when our prescription pads have been removed from our offices. So it's a two-way, it's a bi-directional communication, line of communication that we have through Inspect with pharmacists throughout the state.
Okay, this is very good, and I had no idea that we were going to get this deep, this quickly into this show, because I've always wondered about prescription monitoring. That's a lot of power for an MD to have. And I want to go to Ronald Williams. Drug addiction counseling. Is it real? Is this something real? Can you really counsel a person who is abusing opioids? And where does one start when it comes to drug addiction counseling? Ronald Williams.
Well, Gerard, it's very real. It's absolutely necessary. But to kind of dovetail on the conversation you guys were having, I know that when I go to the doctor and I have a tooth pulled or I have some issue that stipulates that I may need some relief from pain, I'll get a prescription for whatever that drug is, codeine, whatever it is, and they won't put a refill on it, okay? They'll assume that they're going to give me this prescription for this amount of doses, and after that, that I should be fine. When you start to talk about the addiction, the emotional, the mental component, the need for counseling, is when you look at how people get the medications past that point. Now I'm starting to manipulate my doctor and manipulate the situation to justify ongoing need for the substance.
Oh, okay. So Ronald Williams, the manipulation of the medical doctor. Is this common practice?
For the addict, manipulation is a prerequisite for joining the club. Ooh. So it presents itself in every area of that person's life.
How does this manipulation manifest itself? By saying, still kind of in pain, doctor, probably need to come see you to get another script? Or does the doctor voluntarily give another script without possibly notifying or even asking the patient if they want more? How does this happen? How does this occur?
I think that from what I hear from a lot of people that I see, it's a combination of all of those things.
So, Dr. Seabrook, who's responsible for prescription drug, opioid addiction, and abuse? It's a loaded question. I see you smiling. You really want to get in. You want to interrupt me because you're Dr. Janet Seabrook. But I think about this a lot. The accessibility of opioids, very powerful drugs, Percocet, Vicodin, hydrocodone, Oxycontin. This stuff is powerful stuff.
It is.
So who's responsible?
You know what? That responsibility has to be spread across multiple professional disciplines. It can't be housed with the pharmaceutical companies alone, the doctors, the ER, hospitals, pharmacies, law enforcement. This is across the board. We all have some professional responsibility to help reduce and prevent the spread of these addictions.
Yeah.
But we can't lay it at the feet of one group over the other.
So we just can't blame the doctors for writing these scripts. We can't just put all the blame on the patient for accepting the scripts. What if I only needed 5 pills, but my script is 10, 15, or 20? Whose fault is it then, Dr. Janet Seabrook?
And again, I'm going to argue back. I'm going to push back on that, okay? Because the fault can't lay at the foot of one person. We live in a capitalistic society, and if those pharmaceuticals did not make any money, they would not be manufactured.
See, I'm speechless now because now we see, look, we opened up with the component of these drugs killing pain. That's what they're supposed to do. They have medicinal purpose to make sure that the patient can bear and have comfort during that time of pain. But when you blend capitalism into the mix, now we have drug companies who make a lot of money.
Huge profit margin.
Yes.
And the situation is so multifaceted that, as you opened speaking about relieving pain, we look at opiates and the prescription drug problem as a pain being relieved based on a medical need. But we leave out the fact that the vast majority of it has to do with emotional and mental pain that people are dealing with. Dr. Seabrook talked about, and you talked about, having a prescription for 10 pills and only needing 5? Or what happens after the person doesn't need the drugs anymore and they start to abuse? Well, now we're looking at a situation where this individual no longer needs the medication for pain. Why are they taking the medication? Okay? They're taking the medication to deal with other things, to deal with
Correct.
other kinds of pain. Okay? So now you do have a physiological component that would stipulate that that individual may have become dependent on the drugs, but not at such a short interval and at such.
Let's go further. Okay, so I talked about physical pain earlier, breaking a forearm years ago, access to morphine, open heart surgery, or a tumor on my heart. Obviously you need a pain pill for that. But you say other types of pain that aren't necessarily physical. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about
Emotional pain? I mean,
emotional pain, low self-esteem, low self-worth.
so you take a drug, so you continue to take the drugs for those reasons?
To not feel, not deal, and not have to
Just check out.
Check out, exactly.
Because the reasons are multiple that people may do it. As in your case, a real injury, real surgery, you needed to cover that real pain that you were having. But again, you have people who have depression, people who want to check out. They may be having marital problems. The issues, the reasons are multifactorial. Why people, the same way or the same way that someone would slide off, so to speak, and drink too much.
And you start to use the drugs like Dr. Seabrook is saying for a particular reason, and then you get that aha moment. This feels good.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, I could feel like this often. I'm not worried about the bills. I'm not worried about the environment. I'm not worried about the husband. I'm not worrying about being abused. I'm not worried about past abuse. I'm not worrying about anything. And so then it becomes even more addictive.
Oh, wow. See, that's deep. We got to talk about this more in the second segment. That's heavy because I noticed when you're just in physical pain, you just want relief.
Correct.
But what's interesting is that, and really when you take the drug, you're really only concentrating on that physical relief. But once you're out of that pain, and if you're still taking the drug, the relief is different.
Yes.
It's like you feel the high as opposed to the pain disseminating.
And the kind of pain you're dealing with is much more intense.
What do you mean?
That emotional and mental distress is much more intense and bothersome than that physical pain that you might deal with.
I was diagnosed with cancer in 2003, so that's why I had to have the surgery on my chest. And I noticed that after I didn't need the drug anymore, boy, oh boy, that euphoric feeling that the drug gives you, unless you go cold turkey on that, you can be in a world of trouble.
Absolutely.
Hold tight with me. Friends, how can we curtail opioid abuse and misuse? Car crashes, heart attacks, and gun violence, they were the leaders of death, but now painkillers have become killers. Counterpoint. We'll be back in a moment. Tweet me, post on Instagram, or send me a message on Facebook. Let's start the conversation. Your voice is important on Counterpoint. Are Americans so dependent on opioids that the demand pressures doctors to prescribe for pain or insistence? How can we curtail opioid abuse and misuse? Car crashes, heart attacks, gun violence. Those were the leaders of death, but now painkillers have become the real killers. Thank you for watching Counterpoint. Give us a call, 844-777-9311. Send us a tweet or a Facebook comment to Gerard MC. I've got Dr. Janet Seabrook and Chief Crisis Officer Ronald Williams joining us on the Counterpoint today. Ronald Williams, how do we treat addiction with dignity? So often, addiction can be embarrassing. Addiction can be filled with denial. I can quit anytime I want. I really don't need this heroin or this Vicodin or this next drink of alcohol. I can quit anytime I want. And don't you dare insult me by saying that I have an addiction. How do we treat it with dignity so the person doesn't feel as if they're belittled while being treated?
Well, one of the things that's high on my list is absolutely important and necessary is that the clients that we serve, the people that we treat, are treated with dignity and respect. everybody is trained and understands through their formal education and or being educated on the job that this is a disease. It's a situation that people have, that you could have, or anybody in your family could have. Our government, one of our presidents had. I mean, for God's sake, anybody could fall prey to addiction. And so treating people with respect and dignity and being ethical and sound in your practice is first and foremost. And if you're doing that, then you don't run into those problems.
Good.
We have the the heroin use is so rampant now that you don't even have to drag them in. They're dragging themselves in.
Really?
And so once you get them there, that's when the job starts of having to treat them in a manner in which they would want to stay.
We're seeing more and more heroin users in emergency rooms all throughout Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana now. Often occurs on Friday and Saturday nights when you get that rush of people who have overdosed, and it's a frustrating thing. Dr. Janet Seabrook, you wanted to piggyback.
Yeah, I do. I want to talk a little bit about how to treat with dignity by not criminalizing what is going on.
Decriminalization. You believe in that?
But how are we going to prevent or keep people from feeling that they're safe to be able to come in and have that conversation with the crisis counselor if we're criminalizing their addiction?
It's a sickness.
So
it's not something that should be punished. It's something that needs to be treated.
Because when we make it criminal or criminalize it, we have people that stay in the shadows. And if I'm shooting up and sharing needles with someone who may be positive for HIV, then I am going to perpetuate the spread of HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases if things are criminalized and the patients stay in the shadows.
Okay, so we've all seen The Wire on HBO a few years ago. It's where a very famous actor got famous playing the character Stringer Bell. And we saw that The Wire depicts Baltimore at a time when drug use was the highest. They had a scene in The Wire called Hamsterdam. I want to see if the two of you agree to Hamsterdam. Hamsterdam, as opposed to, there's a pun, of course, with the word Amsterdam being in it. Hamsterdam on The Wire was a place where if you were a drug addict, you could go to that place in the city and do drugs, no matter how illicit, without being arrested by the authorities. Do you believe in that or not?
Well,
should there be Hamsterdams in every major city? Ooh, be careful, Dr. Janet Seabrook. I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
Well, I am someone who believes that until people are ready, I do not believe that needle exchange programs aggravate or elevate people's heroin use if they're already addicted.
You think it's for safety when
when I think of it, and I think of what recently happened in Indiana, with needles being recklessly, thrown on the ground by school lots and play yards where children could be, harmed by them. If those people who are addicted would be able to take those needles in, pick them up off the lots, not leave them in the abandoned houses, and not leave them places for our city workers to get, stuck when they're trying to do their job. So it's not that it's affecting just that one person. It's affecting the entire community when you have someone who will recklessly and carelessly discard a needle in a not safe way.
Puts an influence on the whole village. This is interesting. So should there be limits to prescription? I know that's illicit or deemed as illicit, but should there be limits to prescription opioid quantities?
Yes, there should be, and recently the state of Indiana, along with using the inspect, passed several laws last legislative period in regards to limitations on prescription medications. Also, there has to be some type of written in your chart, where is this pain coming from, where are the x-rays, things have to be very well documented, then the limitation on the prescription, and then patients have to come back in face to face in the office. You're not going to get an unlimited supply
Got you.
of opioid medications
Got
anymore.
you. So where does this pain come from, Ronald Williams? You know, why do we have more deaths due to opioid consumption than gun violence and heart attacks and car crashes now?
Well, it's like
Over 40,000 a year now. Are we in that much pain physically, or are we in that much pain emotionally?
Emotionally, I think. I think that Dr. Seabrook is right. If we do take better care to monitor after we prescribe and ensure that the individuals who are using the prescription drugs need the prescription drugs, we'll be better able to, curtail the amounts and the quantities that we put out there. However, I might get kind of controversial here, but we talk a lot about opiate use and the prescription drugs. From my perspective, I've been in working in substance abuse field, I don't know, about 25 years now. And
so you're a veteran of this.
Yes.
You've seen everything,
I've
haven't you?
seen it. And it continues to transform itself. It continues to evolve.
So it's not stagnant.
It's not stagnant.
What you saw 5 years ago is different than you saw 2 years ago, and it looks totally different now.
But it's the same animal with a different jacket on. Back in the 80s, it was, in the 60s and 70s, it was heroin, and heroin kind of stopped, and you always had the alcohol. Then you had a high incidence of marijuana, and then you went to crack a lot in the 80s.
Oh, crack was huge.
Yeah.
Crack was huge. New Jack City.
Right.
It was
Freebasing and then crack, and then you start doing meth and alcohol again, and then back to heroin. And it really has to do with whatever is popular at the time, whatever is more accessible at the time,
Yeah.
Right.
whatever people are putting on the streets to make more money with at the time. But the one thing that stays stagnant is that people want to escape. And when we start talking about it being a real big problem, we're talking about it now more so because of the areas that it's spread to.
Yeah.
It's been like this or worse in the black communities and in the lower socioeconomic class of people for years and years and years. This is nothing new. This is not something that is new to us.
But when it gets to the affluent,
it's a problem.
And
Okay.
also, this is coming out of rural areas as well. And most people, when you think of substance abuse, you think of urban areas.
Right.
But the crisis right now, particularly in our state, is in the rural areas.
Breaking Bad.
Yes.
A whole Netflix multi-episode series dedicated to meth addiction and meth selling. 80% of heroin users started on prescription drugs. How can we reduce the abuse? You got 80% start on prescription drugs. They no longer get the prescription from the doctor anymore. I think I need to try that heroin or that meth. Now, why do people go towards meth as we saw depicted in Breaking Bad? What is it about meth in the rural area? Is it the price point?
It's very cheap. It's easy to make, and
What makes meth easy to make? The chemicals are easy to get?
The chemical compounds are available in pharmacies and grocery stores and the different big box stores, chain stores.
Dr. Seabrook, is that why they lock up all of
Yes,
the drugs?
cold
And they
medications
have,
yes.
Man, that really upsets me.
But there's a reason.
You got to
there's a
fill out a
reason why.
card now to get the Sudafed and everything.
Or they have them behind glass with a lock on them. So, wow, so you
card
can
up
make
there.
meth from something at CVS or Walgreens?
Yes, that's unfortunately yes. But the breakdown of those chemicals is very volatile, and that's why you hear about the different explosions and things like that occur. Now, our legislation did not pass, a legislative body last year did not pass a phenylephrine and epinephrine bill that would also include those medications in the inspect. We would have just been inundated. And it's I think it's a little bit better the way this being done now, just because those are over-the-counter medications.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and you don't want to restrict someone who truly has a need for those medications.
Right.
It just reminds me of when we were little in elementary school, and sometimes, you know, 1 or 2 students in class would be acting out, and the teacher would say the good had to suffer with the bad.
Yeah.
And you know,
Right.
I don't want to see any of my patients that could easily go, if they have a cold or a cough or something like
Yeah.
that, to be able to go to the pharmacy. I don't want them to have to come and see me and get a prescription just to, you know, get an over-the-counter medication.
That's
such an
frustrating.
inconvenience.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
when people are using, you know, Great Pop, 7-Up, and NyQuil mixed together to make that lean, you know, you see why the stuff is locked up. You know, when people are using acetaminophen for the wrong reasons, it gets a little frustrating. Man, I really thank y'all for being here. I wish we could do a part 2, but this is really, really deep because more people are dying from these opioids that are prescribed than car crashes, heart attacks, and gun violence. We got to start paying closer attention to this.
I think the question that we need to answer is, the United States is 5% of the world population, but we get 99% of the opioid prescriptions.
We're going to end on that note. I want to thank you both for being here. Ronald Williams, Dr. Janet Seabrook, thank you so much for bringing us that fact, because I tried to get that in earlier. Sometimes you need a pain reliever. But when the painkiller kills, we must pay closer attention to the epidemic. 300 million pain prescriptions, $24 billion market. In most countries, the use of opioid prescription is limited to acute hospitalization, burn, surgery, childbirth, and end-of-life care, including patients with terminal cancer. But in America, everybody, a bottle and pills and then some. What's your opinion on it? Gerard McClendon MC, Facebook or Twitter, or give me a call, 844-777-9311. Thank you all for watching CounterPoint. I need you to stay positive, keep your head up, and always be encouraged to voice your counterpoint. Have a great week.